OpenResearch, the organization backed by OpenAI CEO Sam Altman, has concluded the largest scale pilot in the United States of universal basic income. So the study provided $1,000 or more monthly to thousands of low income participants in Illinois and Texas for 3 years, and found that recipients used the money primarily for essential needs and to assist others without significantly reducing their workforce participation. So, the key takeaway from the survey was that cash transfers offer flexibility, allowing recipients to address the specific needs as they see fit, while allowing them to increase their agency. So there were other various outcomes that were discussed, including increased spending on healthcare, more future-oriented financial planning, and reductions in work hours for some groups like single parents. So the cash didn't solve all the underlying problems, of course, but it did enable participants, it would seem, to improve their living situations and pursue personal goals. And the researchers emphasize that the effectiveness of cash transfers depends on individual circumstances. Of course, there's a ton of context that goes into it. But, George, it would seem that universal basic income, particularly for very low income Americans, gives these folks an agency to address their living situation as they see fit and could potentially serve as a real model for poverty reduction.
I think this has been fascinating. What I encourage you all to do is just do a search for UBI Sam Altman research and see what comes up as news headlines. This feels like it's a Rorschach test, right? One of those tests with the ink blots. And I see a butterfly. I see doom for all of civilization and everything that will happen in front of us. Whoa, I see a butterfly. And there's a lot in this. And I want to be careful what lens that I look at it through because I have heard points on either side for this. On one level, showed very little to no improvement in health and mental well being. Ultimately, there was a regression to the mean on those types of measurable indicators after about a year, which is interesting to see. But on the other side, yeah, when you're money then goes toward core essentials, you're like, yeah, essentially you're being lifted out of poverty. It's not bring out the brass band and everything's fine now. But I think, especially for families, there's a lot of measures that are hard to quantify and fall into the category of what is the ROI of your mom? Seriously, what is the ROI of your mom? Now, let's just back that out into what is the ROI of a less stressed family for children being raised in that environment? What's more, can you measure that inside of 3 years? And so the longitudinal impacts can't be measured, may never be able to be measured. But speaking as a parent, parents in this country need help. I don't care what level you are, like, and especially if you are operating at or below the poverty line, it makes a lot of sense for stopping people from falling through the bottom. And that type of support is hard to measure. So I would say, as this narrative continues, as this research continues, be aware of the Rorschach test, be aware of who's presenting you the information, because there's many pros and cons on this. This isn't all good saying, oh, this did it. And I think there is a fundamental assumption here that is incredibly dangerous that falls into the category of bigger is different. You did this study with 1,000 people. We ran this study as a nation during COVID when we printed 40% of the money supply. And suddenly, no one can afford eggs. No one can afford groceries. And you're like, I can't afford things. The truth is, if you flood the market with a bunch of free money, everything gets more expensive and you may have actually exacerbated the problem. So the deployment of capital really does matter at scale. I think this type of research is important on the micro level, but I worry about saying, okay, great, now let's just do it to everybody. I think there's a lot more nuance that could be approached with earned income tax credits, that could be earned with child credits, that could be focused on families that are specific situations and needs. And also, I think there's a world where the AmeriCorps comes back with a lot more force. That I think there is a lot of work that needs to be done in service to each other. And I think potentially compensating or having nonprofits play a role in a way of compensated employment or types of reimbursement may produce the type of purpose that is missing. We find purpose in our work and our service to cause that's bigger than ourselves. And that's not satisfied by $1,000 a month and can potentially lead to negative effects on mental health and societal well-being if we don't have purpose associated. So I think that is a key role here. But I encourage you to play the Rorschach game and see how different groups, left, right, thought leaders, pick and choose the data and narratives they want from this research.
Yeah, George, it's interesting to put that into context there. Of course, Sam Altman, a controversial figure with lots of discussion about the efficacy, dangers, ethics, et cetera, of OpenAI. But to the program itself, I just can't help but think back to the 2021 expansion of the child tax credit, which was just a tax credit. So essentially similar money, which led to a historic reduction in poverty in the United States, especially for children, right? That was like a 1 year thing we did during COVID. Everyone was like, this might be one of the greatest policy successes of all time. And then Congress let it expire, right? If we want big ideas on poverty reduction, we have them. We have the tools. We've tried the policy. It just takes willpower. And I think that in addition to running experiments like this, we also have to run to the ballot box in November, right? Because at a large scale, this stuff doesn't happen unless we have the support of government and our officials. I just want to throw that policy piece in there, but super interesting research.
I hate to also frame this, but it's a thought that tumbles around the back of my mind of how much of this is a $14 million or $24 million, depending on how you parse it, marketing stunt by a human who may become a trillionaire by leveraging AI built on the backs of the work of many millions of humans writing quick checks to say, look, now you all get a piece of this, but it's let them eat cake situation where that's a company like going through many millions of dollars per day uh, and likely to be $1 trillion company. And is this a way for folks that, again, have stolen unprecedented amounts of IP to create engines that can then reproduce it and then monetize it? Says, hey, here's some cake. And like part of my mind is it would be a very effective marketing strategy to spend $24 million and run the world's largest UBI experiment and be seen in that light for the low price of, again, $24 million.
George, I feel like you saw the other side of that ink blot just there.
I'm just looking at the ink blot. I see stuff in the ink blot. And if I were a billionaire class, I'd be like, hey, here's a great way to trick folks into just letting us run away with this.
Yeah, we won't go down that rabbit hole, George. No, I'm with you. Listen, I'm with you. But I don't want to get the last time.
I guess distracting me. It's like Inkblot. What do you say?
Oh man, the last time we talked about our philanthropist legit, we got feedback.
I love being the lightning rod on YouTube for the UBI discussion. I want to hear it.